So, first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's call, Meet the Pros. We're going to be talking about a very, very interesting topic. The topic is more fuel, same brakes. Why pouring on the marketing won't fix your business. And I'm glad to have two experts in their fields here, Peter and Brandon. Welcome to the call.
Thank you. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah,
You're
so
welcome.
look, I guess let's start at the start. We talk about this idea of why pouring on the marketing won't fix your business. Tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, and how that applies to your view of the world. And we might start with you, Pete.
My name is Peter Burgess from Process Culture. My business is all about sales process design and optimization.
Hmm.
We're focused on really creating the best possible sales process for businesses, which allows you to maximize your conversion. Big problem that I often see for clients is lots of leads, especially when they're working with someone like Brandon. They get lots of leads into the business, but they actually can't convert them into sales. So
Yeah,
I focus on developing that high converting sales process in a business.
fantastic. Thank you. And Brandon, from you?
Hey everyone, Brandon here from Caspa Media. So we specialize in lead generation via SEO and Google Ads. So pretty much everything within Google, within the search engine.
Hmm.
So for those businesses out there that are struggling to get consistent lead flow into their organization, that's where we come in. So we identify what it is that people are looking for to find you online,
Hmm.
and we put you in the position to show up at that moment where they're ready to engage you.
Yeah,
So
fantastic.
in a nutshell, that's what us and what we do.
Great, great. And for those who I haven't met before, my name's David Guest from Outcomes Business Group. We've been helping business owners scale their business for the past 25 years. And I guess one of the reasons this is a very dear to my heart topic is that often people will try and fix one part of their business without recognizing or realizing the impact it's going to have on others. And this metaphor of, more fuel, same brakes. Very often, and I'm a bit of a petrol head at heart, when I was younger, we would modify cars, right? And one of the things we'd do is say, hey, we should put a faster motor in this car, which is a great idea until the gearbox blows up. And then you go,
Mhm.
oh, I need a bigger gearbox. And
Yep.
that's a great idea until the diff blows up and then the brakes go and then the wheels. So you end up starting to realize that when you modify one part of a car, you're actually taking it out of alignment. And then you have to work on the other elements. So for me, the focus is three things today. We've talked about attraction through Brandon. We've talked about a conversion through Peter. And for me, it's all about delivery because there's no point getting new clients on board if you cannot deliver your service consistently. So inevitably, if one of those three elements is missing or not up to speed, the other two will actually cause stress and anxiety for the business owner. So let's talk about that impact, and maybe we'll go back to you, Brandon, because you're at the top of the tree. You're out there shaking the tree and getting all these leads into businesses. Where do you think it falls over?
Um, I think an area that I tend to see businesses fall over when it comes to the lead generation side of things is uh, not having a clear system in place to measure and track the leads in the
Mhm.
first place.
Yeah.
So they tend to not handle those leads effectively from the
Mhm.
get-go, and
Yeah.
then they come back complaining to me that the lead quality is low and it's not working. But when we dig into the details a little bit deeper, we find that they're not getting back to leads in a reasonable time frame, sometimes several hours, sometimes several days.
Yeah.
And by that time they've already moved on to another
Mhm.
provider. So this is probably the most common thing that I see.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, just talking about lead gen, is that my experience has been that people who haven't done lead generation for their business before, they have a unrealistic expectation of what a lead is. Let me explain.
Mm,
If I work in a business that I get a lot of word of mouth or referral, and a lot of people do, right? They get a lot of word of mouth or referral, and they don't need to advertise. And then one day that funnel dries up. The problem is they're used to pre-qualified leads walking in the door that have already been referred to them. So their expectation of a lead is it's someone who's ready to buy. Now, the reality is when
Yep.
you're advertising exactly what Brandon just described, the quality of the lead is much, I wouldn't say lower, it's lower qualified. So, in other words, people might be tire kicking, they might be getting three quotes, They might have just responded to, something that you've put in your advertising. So they've shown interest, but they're not ready to buy. I guess that leads to the next person on the call, which is Pete, because often when these leads are a varying buyer intent, let's call it,
Yep.
this is what Brandon's been talking about, is where people don't follow up on leads because they assume if they're not going to buy today, then just move on to the next one. What's your thoughts on this?
Uh, my thoughts are that basically most people lose opportunity through lack of process, especially when it comes to following up on leads. So when you receive an inquiry into the business, you need to jump on that really, really quickly. So
Yeah.
speed to lead is critical. A lot of people don't understand that conversion can drop multiple times even within the first hour. In fact, after the first 5 minutes, you start to see a drop in conversion. After 24 hours, most leads for many businesses are not convertible. So they
Okay.
literally can't be converted after a day or two has passed. So it's really important that you have a process in place.
Right, right. So really what happens is even if someone said, because you've heard this, Brandon, I've heard it, we just need more leads.
Mm.
Yeah.
Famous scratch cry of a business. We just need more leads. And you go, well,
Yeah.
do you really? And the answer is, well, we don't really need more leads. We just need more clients, but they come from leads. So therefore we need more leads, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
And then the quality is variable. And then inevitably they go, these leads aren't as good as my referrals. And you go, that's because they're leads, right? They're not referrals. And
Yeah.
I think that's where the nurture comes in. So what you've talked about, Pete, two things. First of all, speed to lead, which I think these days the expectation is immediate. Doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or
Yeah.
3 a.m. in
Mm.
the morning. If I go to your website or I click on a link, I expect to see information immediately, not when
Mm.
you wake up the next day. So speed to lead sometimes means automation, and other times it means a phone call at a particular time. But that whole idea of measuring
Mm.
how quickly someone responds to a lead, and then looking at conversion, I think you're right. Conversion drops dramatically after the first 5 minutes or 1 hour. And
Yeah,
certainly after
that's right.
24 hours, I mean, you said it, they're almost non-convertible.
Well, my
Yeah.
recommended best process is really that immediately. So when someone places an inquiry, we're talking here, inbound opportunity,
Yeah.
that you immediately respond to them
Mm-hmm.
via an autoresponder. So within the first, 1 or 2 minutes,
Yep.
and then you either craft a personalized email or
Mm-hmm.
pick up the phone and give them a call within the first 5 to 10 minutes if you can.
Right.
So that's the ideal process. Yeah.
I
Right.
think
And of course, it
I
has to be
think
the
it's
right person. It depends upon, has to be the right person actually making that first contact as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry, Brandon.
Sorry.
yeah, I think it's worth noting that like the way that I tend to look at it is like just putting yourself in the prospect or the lead's shoes is that
Mm-hmm.
like we're all busy at the end of the day, and if the goal is to build trust with that person and build some rapport with them,
Yeah.
then if your competitor is able to do that before you, it's just simple. Like they're not going to want to do that again with another person. So,
Mm.
hence the need for speed to lead, like Peter suggested.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely critical.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is people will pay per lead when they advertise on things like Google. Yep.
Yeah,
And so if
Yep.
I take
Yep.
twice as long to respond and my conversion doubles or halves as a result of that,
Mm.
my cost of a lead that I speak to becomes double, not
yeah,
because of your
Yeah.
advertising, but because of my timing.
hmm
So I think it is really important to sort of to tune the lead generation to the conversation, right, to the conversion,
mm,
because without that, there's a lot of inefficiencies that are costing a lot of money for people. So if
Yep.
they say, well, I need leads first and then I'll worry
Mm.
about capturing them, their leads are going to be super expensive because the majority
yeah,
of them won't even respond to any of their sort of any of their marketing because they've taken too long to get back to them.
yeah,
And something to point out as well, it's not just that initial response to the initial inbound inquiry in the case of
Yeah.
inbound. It's actually the ongoing that you've got a process for following up. You're making
Uh-huh.
sure that people actually turn up for meetings
Hmm.
or for that initial call. That you also make sure when you send a quote out, you've got a process for following up the quote. That you
Yes.
know that after 48 hours or 72 hours, this is what you do. You get in touch, and then a
Yep.
week later you get in touch again, and you have a set process. And for those people who are not ready to buy right now, you also have a process.
Yeah. So I guess the first part of the process is to acknowledge that the leaders come in, number one, so they know you're real. The
Yeah.
second part is to qualify, to work out what the urgency of the purchase is. Because if it's urgent, you need to act now. And if it's not urgent, then you need to nurture. And I guess that's what you're describing here, Pete, is that it's not just a one shoe fits all. It's really about sort of creating a process that can adapt to where the buyer is in their journey. And
Yeah,
it takes a
exactly.
bit of architecture, I guess, too. And that's really where I guess having a CRM or a workflow sort of really kicks in and saying, hey, let's design this to capture the right kind of leads at the right time.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Because I guess the third part of this, and we haven't talked about it yet, but it's once someone does actually sign up, I think the same has to happen with delivery. Because I don't know
Mm.
if you've had this experience, but when you are looking to buy something, the salespeople are all over you like a rash, right? The minute you put money in their
Excellent.
bank account, something weird happens, right? The salesperson is lost interest in you because all of a sudden it's not their problem anymore. It's now the delivery department. And I've seen many a person who wins a deal and then loses the deal because it goes into a black hole. Or even worse than losing the deal, they create a disgruntled customer because the customer got all of this service at the front end because they were a lead. But as soon
Yep.
as they paid the money, all of a sudden they became like less interesting. And the salesperson said, I've done my job, punt it over to delivery. And if delivery doesn't pick up the ball and run with it, you can unravel all of the good work of the sales conversion. So this is why we talk about, this whole idea of tuning the engine, right? Because there's three elements here that are quite
Mm.
clearly
Yep.
distinguishable, right? Generating a lead, in other words, getting someone to stick their hand up in the air and say, I'm interested in what you've got. The second part is grabbing them from where they are and taking them from the transition from I'm interested to here's some money. Then the third phase is once they give you the money, how do you make sure that their experience does two things? Number one, make sure that you get paid at the end. And number two, makes them a lead source for you. In other words, a referral engine
Yep.
for your business.
Exactly.
So for me, I don't think marketing finishes when the salesperson starts or even when the salesperson finishes. I think marketing goes all the way through. And so all the systems you've just described, Pete, go from lead to conversion, but I think they go beyond conversion as well into the delivery sequence, into the post-delivery sequence, and just keeping that person as a raving fan of the business as well.
Oh, totally. I often say that having a good sales process allows you to give a really consistent professional impression to customers or
Yep.
potential customers. So
Mhm.
a business that's haphazard and chaotic doesn't give a professional impression at all.
No, no.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there's sort of three elements that I think of are equal importance.
Yep.
Because if I
Exactly.
spend money on marketing but I can't convert, I'm wasting my money. If I spend
Hmm.
money on marketing and conversion but I don't deliver, I can't pay the bills. So you sort of look at it and you go, there's three elements that require equal levels of attention. And probably the most important sort of, I guess, summary of all of this is they need to match the level that each one is at. So I think when people consider lead gen and they go, hey, we should generate some leads, you go, yeah, okay. But as well as generating leads, the next question is, what are you doing with those leads from the minute they come in?
Mm.
Because without that strategy, the lead gen will prove to be ineffective in terms of we're not getting any clients out of these leads that you're generating for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or extremely wasteful, even if you do close some of them.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yep.
you might close a few, but then the cost per acquisition becomes alarmingly expensive, not
Mm.
because the lead gen didn't work, but
Mm.
because the nurture system wasn't in play.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
That's right.
so it's an interesting play, and I think most people don't think of the three dynamics; they think of one. So they
Hmm.
either think I need a sales guy, or they think I need a sales system, or they think I need lead gen. But really, we need to make sure that there's a consistent level of flow all the way through these three elements.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's just a result of people like it's simpler to comprehend and focus on just one area at a time. And
Yes.
it obviously tends to be the lead flow as the primary focus.
Yeah. I guess you might have seen this because I've seen it a lot where people will engage a good lead gen company. But the problem is the lead gen company is like a fire hose.
Yeah,
And the
that's
poor
right.
person
Yeah.
purchasing the leads goes, hang on, I've got 300 leads in my inbox. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know what to do with them. And you're going
Yeah.
to say, call them.
Yeah, that's right.
I haven't got time to call them. Well, if you haven't got time to call them, why are you paying me to generate? I just want the good ones, Brandon.
Mm.
And you go, I'll just give you leads, right? Your job is to qualify
Yeah.
them. So
Yeah.
that's where the secondary piece comes in. So I often see it because we see funnels that are broken. And
Mm.
when funnels are broken, sometimes it's not what people intuitively think it is. Because they're going
Mm.
to go find another lead gen company because they're going to go, the leads were generated by this guy weren't any good. And you
Mm.
go, was it the leads or was it the capture? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as Pete said, if I take too long to respond, what could have been a great lead now becomes stonewalled. They won't
Mm.
even respond
Mm.
to your call because you haven't answered them. And
Yep.
then we'll judge it as these leads are no good, when the truth of the matter is they were probably great. It's just that because I let them sit on the shelf for too long,
Mhm.
they've turned into nothing.
Yep.
There's one piece that we haven't yet discussed, which is the numbers. So
Mm.
actually being able to tell, and that's really important from a point of view of
Yeah,
seeing where your marketing investment's going,
right.
is actually knowing from this campaign I'm running on Google Ads or the SEO work I'm doing or Meta,
Yeah,
how much money am I actually making from this campaign? So if I've spent,
Mm.
$3,000 a month on Google Ads,
yeah,
how much is that actually returning me?
yeah.
So that's where it's really important that we can tie marketing and sales together, and we can actually make sure that your numbers are traceable. You're actually
Mm.
those 10 leads that you've got from Google Ads, we can tell how much money is being returned to the business from that campaign.
Yeah, and this is a
Mm.
really good point, Pete,
Yeah.
because what you've talked about is the distinction between expense and investment.
Exactly.
Expense and investment. And often people look at things that where money's leaving the organization, it's seen as an expense, right? But when what you just alluded to is marketing and sales should never be seen as an expense. They should be seen as an investment. Now, some people just
Exactly.
say it's just a play on words, and you go, no, no, there's a
Mm,
very distinct difference between the two. An
Mm.
investment is something you expect a return on,
Mm.
right? So
yep.
if you can't measure the return, then it's an expense. If
Yeah.
you can measure the return, and even if it's not yielding properly, you can now optimize to make it an investment. And this is the test that I usually give to people. I say, if I gave you $2 for every dollar you gave me, if I gave you $2
Mm,
unconditionally for every dollar you gave me, how much would you give me? And usually the answer is something along the lines of everything.
Yeah. Everything I've got
so,
plus some money that I
yeah.
can borrow.
Right. And people go, and I go, well, that's a hypothetical. That's
Yeah.
not the reality. But this is
Yeah.
what marketing can be, right? Because if
Mm,
Yes.
I knew for every dollar I spent on Google Ads that I was going to make $2 in profit,
yeah.
and I was sure that that was going to happen, all of a sudden my marketing budget becomes unlimited. The only thing that will limit
Mm,
it is my capacity to deliver.
yeah.
Okay.
That's
Mm.
right.
And often for smaller businesses, they can't go far because all of a sudden they start drowning in activity. And as you were aware, Pete, sales activity is not income generating, right? Because unless someone signs up, it's an expense that is incurred without any return on it. It's only when people sign up that it becomes an investment. So you're right. They have to test and measure a few things. The first thing is they need to measure the cost per lead. The second one is the cost per conversation. Then they move into the cost per
Mm,
sale, and that's where the
Mm.
magic happens, right? If I know that I'm going to get $2 in profit off a sale that cost me a dollar, now I'm starting to create alchemy in my business.
I can push back a little bit on that last statement you made there about
Yeah.
sales itself, sales activity not being an investment, in the
Mm.
sense that if we know our numbers, so if we know, for
Ah,
example, how many phone calls we have to make, or how many emails we have to send, or how many meetings we have to have in order to convert on
yeah.
average, then
Yeah.
then business becomes really, really interesting, because you can then say, okay, well, if I increase the number of phone calls, emails, meetings, activities in my business,
Yes.
and I increase I change things in my business to improve conversion, I
Yep.
can see a direct effect on sales. So if we
Right.
carry out no activities in the business whatsoever, no business.
Hmm. So the distinction you just made is really important because you
Yeah.
said measure the conversion and the
Mm,
sales. So
yeah.
when the dollars come in the door, then I can measure conversion. But
That's right.
here's the flaw, right? Because I
Mm,
100% agree with you. We need to measure it. The flaw is if I don't have the capacity to deliver, if I don't have the capacity to deliver, I can't actually turn the sale into dollars.
Mm.
Okay.
true. True. Yeah.
So we need all three elements because I agree. But to me, if I'm going to spend money on advertising, I need the money to come back in cash at
Yeah,
some
Mm.
that's
point.
right.
That cash will only return to me when I actually invoice the client and they pay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if I don't
And
do
I'm
it,
and,
so
and I'm sure we've all experienced this pain before of
yeah.
not being able we don't have the capacity to deliver on something, and
Mhm.
that money is just left on the table.
Right. So we might even sign up the deal and I don't know, it could be a $50,000 deal, but if we can't close the project, the customer doesn't pay. So
Mm.
we're
Mm,
busy doing all the work on the promise of getting paid, but if the quality is down or if we can't actually get the project to complete, we're in big trouble, right? Because not only are we busy, We can't take on any more work because we can't even do the work that we have. And this is a really big problem because I think people who do start to scale their marketing and sales end up with a quality question, right?
Mm.
Because the question is, how much work
Yeah,
can you actually take on? And this is a hard question to answer. What's your
it
capacity
is.
to take on the
Yeah.
work? Because we know when you hit that capacity, two things are going to happen. Number one is you're either going to stop marketing and sales because you're going to say we're full, but most people don't do that. What they do
Yeah.
is the other one, which is they go, just keep bringing the work. We'll worry about the delivery. And then the
Yeah.
quality drops. And
Mm.
That's
when the
right.
quality drops, there's actually two side effects. Number one is delayed payment, but the second one is my referrals will dry up.
Yeah.
So if a
Mm.
client comes to me and pays me money and doesn't get what they paid for, they're not going to refer work to me.
Mm.
So it is quite significant to make sure we can close, but also close in a way that the customer is a raving fan,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that
That's right.
multiplies the return on investment. So imagine I buy
Yeah.
a lead, I get Brandon to generate leads at $1 a lead. Pete converts them and I get $2 per lead in promise. I deliver the service to the point the client is ecstatic. They tell their friends and family about the experience. So now I get leads for free because
Mm.
of
Mm.
referral. Whereas if I don't do a good job, I have to go back to Brandon and say, get me some more leads.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
so I'm
right.
getting $2 on every dollar, but I could end up getting $4 on every dollar if I do a
Hmm.
good job. So
Yeah.
I'm just bringing this up because I think people sometimes forget because they go, let's not worry about that. Let's just get the customers in the door.
Yeah.
But you can have a very inefficient business if you have a poor quality of work.
No, it's
Yeah.
a complete system. It's a bit like,
Yes.
at the airport, the luggage carousel,
Hmm.
taking the luggage and then putting it on the plane. But if you've got too much luggage and not
Yes.
enough people to load the plane, it all
Uh-huh.
becomes complete chaos, and then people lose their bags.
And when they lose their bags, they go, I'm never flying with that airline again.
Yeah.
There
That's
goes
right.
the repeat business.
Yep.
And we don't see that because that's down the track, and the sales and marketing department go, not our problem. And I go, actually, it is your problem because now every client you generate just goes out the back door dissatisfied. They're not coming back no matter how well you market
Mm.
Mm.
because they've had a
Yeah.
bad experience. So we've got to think of all these rare elements, and I think this is the secret sauce. Okay. And I know that we're going to be doing this in our event. We're going to be talking about each one of these elements and how they interrelate. Because if you get the matching right, all of a sudden you get this efficiency through your acquisition that actually means you can drive your business forward profitably. But if we try and
Mm.
work on one without the other two, we end up with a pipeline that's dry, or we end up with being flooded with poor quality leads. And they're not necessarily poor quality, it's just we don't have a workflow to convert them from engagement to payment. So if we
Yeah.
had to wrap this up in one or two sentences, and I'll go around and I'll get your insight. Brandon, one or two sentences, what do you think is the most important element about making sure that this workflow works for a business from your perspective?
I think that I kind of look at it in terms of like referencing the analogy that you used earlier when we were talking about a car.
Mm,
And I think if you're missing any one of those integral components, being the lead generation, the system, or the delivery, um, like it's just going to fall apart. It's just not going to run. So, um, yeah, I think that they're all as equally as important as one another.
yeah. And I guess what I'm hearing from you is really we need to make sure that they align. All
Yeah.
right. So if you've got high lead gen, you need a
Mhm.
conversion engine, right? If you have
Yeah.
low lead gen, you can be very personal in your approach.
Mm.
So if you're looking to grow a business significantly, or if you have a transactional item like a fast-moving consumer good, it's about volume, right?
Mm.
Whereas if you've got a high quality consulting gig, it might be about connection, intimacy, so relationship. So I think it's about matching your lead gen, your conversion, and your delivery so that they actually support each other rather than swamp each other. Good
Mm.
insight. And from you, Pete?
So it really comes back to a few fundamentals I often bang on about. Number one is make sure you've got a CRM, a central source of truth, where you can track all your leads and your deals and your numbers, key numbers.
Hmm.
And the second part is to have a documented, understood process, which you're constantly improving. And AI is great for this. You come up with your sales process, push it through into Claude and ask for improvements and refinements to adjust. And
Yep.
then obviously talk to people like myself who understand sales process. And then automate that sales process so it's repeatable. The most important part is that you focus on the human aspects of selling, and all the manual and menial stuff is automated.
Yeah. And I think you touched on this one a little bit earlier, which is measuring things at every stage of the process,
That's right. Yeah.
because the numbers don't lie, right? But for most people, they can't give you the actual numbers. So it's not
Yep.
cost per lead, it's cost per lead, cost per meeting, cost per proposal, cost per client,
Exactly.
and then profit on the client as well. So when people don't measure all these things, they're guessing. And I think
Yep.
having a CRM in place means you've got a central repository where you can measure all of these things and you can start to analyze where the gaps are. So absolutely.
Yep.
So I guess, look, from my perspective, it's a holistic system. It always has been. And when we talk about more fuel, same brakes, it's literally why pouring on the marketing won't fix your business. It's a three-pronged approach. So anyone who's interested in thinking through how to build this for their own business, they need to come to our event. So they can understand how the three elements work together and how we can optimize to make sure that they're getting the cash flow they need in their business. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys again when we do run the Prezzo, and anyone else who's listening to this hopefully attends that as well. So thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.